Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis. I come to you from a virtual room filled with some heroes. Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. We are the men behind the Around the NFL podcast, of course, with our producer, Ricky Hollywood, a fine woman. We couldn't do it without her. Check us out every week, and you see that little QR code there. Hit that, and that will get you right there so you can subscribe and get in on that. Today's show, the TV side of things, boys. You got to be feeling good right now. We're getting close to the draft.
I'm feeling good because I know Ricky's coming up a little later on the show. We're going to get all dolled up for a special segment.
Oh,
Dolled up.
absolutely.
I haven't
Dolled
been
up.
dolled up in a while, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, absolutely. A little game show coming up later. Daniel Jeremiah also coming up later to talk the draft. He is the source. It is what it is. He's on our show. We got to have the guy. That's the source, and we're going to talk draft. And speaking of DJ, the big news of the week, Sam Darnold of my New York Jets traded to the Carolina Panthers for 3 draft picks, including a second-round pick next year. Big move for both teams, and it reverberates across the league. We had DJ on the Around the NFL podcast this week. Here's a little bit of that conversation. And I have to ask this because you don't make this trade, right, DJ, of Sam Darnold and then most likely to stay at number 2 unless you're pretty sure Zach Wilson or the quarterback you're going to take, probably Zach Wilson, is a can't-miss prospect. Because on the other side of it, DJ, this is like a once in 10, once in 20 years leverage situation in the draft in terms of where he was. How hard do you think this decision was to stay at 2 if that is indeed what ends up happening?
Well, I don't necessarily think it was hard because when you have conviction on a player at that position, you're not going to be swayed. I mean, to me, it would have taken a monumental haul of picks, much more than even we saw take place with that San Francisco-Miami trade to consider getting out of number 2 if you believe in the quarterback. Because not only do you feel like you've got somebody with tremendous talent coming in, you restart, you reset the clock, and financially it's such a boon. And it would be one thing if the Jets, just had their 7 picks in this draft and 7 picks in next year's draft, and you say, man, look at all the holes on this roster. How are we ever going to fill all of them? But they're in a situation due to the trades. You look at Jamal Adams and Leonard Williams, some of the trades they've made, the haul of picks, I think it's 21 picks over the next 2 years. So they can get the quarterback at 2. Now you move on from Sam Darnold, and you've got a ton of picks where you can fill in around him.
I understand this trade from the Jets side of things. It's a difficult move, but probably the right move with a new coach, and now you're going to have a new quarterback at number 2. Mark, from the Panthers side of this, how do you feel about where they are, and how do you think they internally, if you really drill down and they gave you an honest answer, how they feel about where they are at the quarterback position?
Well, I would say they're probably not done. I mean, if the right scenario were to present itself to the Panthers at number 8, or if they found a way to trade up and get a quarterback they fell in love with, just because you can't say they went into this offseason with all we know, with them chasing, in theory, Deshaun Watson and others, and wanting to trade up, wanting Matthew Stafford, to wind up with Sam Darnold. I just don't think that was the scenario here that they saw as a fantasy of theirs. I mean, look at Sam Darnold, a potentially unknown ceiling. I like his landing spot a lot better. I mean, you could look at the Jets situation as really sort of a horrible 3-year prep school for the NFL, and now he goes out into the real world. There were a lot of bad things that happened to Sam Darnold. He caught mono. He got written about kissing girls at bars after a rare Jets win. These were all small things that were beyond his power. Now I'd like to see him reimagine his career in Carolina, but I'm not sure he's the apple of their eye forevermore.
Kissing girls at a bar after a Jets win, that sounds like the best thing that happened to him during his time in New York.
I feel like, that was where that was the closest he got to being Joe Namath in New York. The problem with Darnold is when he was protected, and it happens sometimes, and he aimed the ball at his receivers, it too often didn't go where he aimed it. Like, that's the number one job of a quarterback. It's why I think the Panthers might as well throw a second-round pick to take a swing at quarterback. But I'm with you, Mark. They should try to get one in the draft if they like one. And I do wonder about his fifth-year option because I'm a dork. Like, that's the first thing I think about, his fifth-year option. With the new CBA, they're guaranteed. It doesn't matter if you're injured. It doesn't matter if you play poorly. If they pick up that fifth-year option, it's guaranteed into next year. They just made a huge mistake giving 2 years of guaranteed money to Teddy Bridgewater. Now they're going to do it to Sam Darnold. We think. I found it interesting. They have not picked up that option yet. They have until May 3rd to do so. So even when the Ian Rappaports, our guy, of the world, say that the plan is to give him that option, maybe if Mac Jones or Justin Fields, whoever it is that they like, falls in the draft, maybe they don't pick up that option and they only have him for 1 year.
And that makes a lot of sense. I feel like the whole Darnold situation is a roll of the dice here. and you need to be able to build in a little bit of protection. If you guarantee that 5th year, yeah, you're back in the same place. Teddy Bridgewater is going to play for someone else. He was been given permission to be traded elsewhere, and he'll probably find a home. But the Panthers are going to be paying him beyond this year. You don't want to be in a situation where you're paying multiple quarterbacks. If Darnold can't play and then you're bringing in a rookie next year and you still got all these guys in your contract, it could become a boondoggle very quickly.
That's why I think that you'd have to put the Panthers in sort of the loser category of chasing quarterbacks this offseason, because I think their plan was to just get through with Teddy Bridgewater last year. And if he blew up and became something they didn't expect, that's one thing. But he didn't. He played the way you kind of expected, which is acceptable, but not something, you tag your entire future to. I think they wanted to get that guy in year 2. And all the reports were that David Tepper, the richest owner in the NFL, one of the most aggressive, was heat-seeking this. And I think they got their 4th or 5th or 6th option.
And
that's true.
And,
think about how they wanted Matthew Stafford. That's kind of been forgotten in all this. They tried to trade that number 8 pick for Matthew Stafford.
They did. And, the Jets, they feel good about bringing in Zach Wilson, it sounds like. I mean, they could throw a stunner out there, but he makes a lot of sense, and you just hope it turns out better on the New York side. And, all of this is kind of dominoes. I mean, the Jets going with a new quarterback, that's one thing. But the fact that we end up in a situation where Darnold's in Carolina. There was reports a few weeks back that the Panthers were all in on going out and getting Deshaun Watson. And one thing that really jumps out to me with this Watson situation, which is just a terrible, tragic situation going on right now as it plays out and the legal process plays out, is that this was the biggest story in the NFL, Deshaun Watson as a player, and now it's the biggest story in the NFL in a totally different way, in a very grim way, and it changes everything for a lot of these teams because he was the centerpiece, and now these teams are all scrambling in a world where he doesn't seem like he's an option.
I don't think it's a coincidence. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say the Russell Wilson potential domino was out there too, and these were 2 franchise quarterbacks that could have been answers for other clubs, and now they're not.
Yeah, I think it's not a coincidence if you think about the last couple of weeks that the 49ers, the Jets, now the Panthers all commit to these other quarterbacks, and those were 3 of the names most in the mix for Deshaun Watson, and it comes at the exact same time that the NFL releases what really was their most aggressive statement yet related to Watson, and I think that was a change in tone from the NFL, and the teams are following that change in tone, and that is really on the back burner for a while.
It's unbelievable, and it's obviously a story that we'll continue to watch and follow. All right, we're just getting warmed up here on the Around the NFL broadcast. Yes, you've already seen DJ once. Now he's going to be back to talk about his specialty, draft. We have a bunch of questions from Move the Sticks coming up next on the broadcast.
Lots of time to the end zone. Touchdown, Clemson.
Lance off to the left side. He slips a tackle. He's into the end zone. Fields goes for the home run. Wide open. Touchdown, Buckeyes.
A spin, a dive, and a score by Zach Wilson.
Jones goes to the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama.
All right, time for our special guest. And, listen, here's the thing. It's not just that he knows it's his time of year. He knows that we know it's his time of year. And that's what hurts the most. Daniel Jeremiah, welcome to the Around the NFL broadcast. We're happy to have you.
Well, Dan, I'll tell you what, it's great to be with you. Sessler, it's great to see you, pal. I do appreciate Greg waking up 3 minutes before this segment started. Greg, it's great to see you as well, pal.
I've been here the whole time. I've been, waiting, sharpening my knives. I've been ready for this for a year.
This is Greg. This is either like this Hollywood style, Jeselnik influenced hairstyle you're going with, or it's I just woke up 5 minutes ago, and I think I'm leaning towards the latter.
I showered. I wanted to be here for your last appearance on NFL Network before you follow Mike Mayock out the door.
We've got Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville, Zach Wilson with his nice little hair going to the Jets, and then we've got number 3. What do you do? Who do you pick as the 49ers quarterback? Who is the third best quarterback in this draft?
To me, I think it's a close call for me personally between Trey Lance from North Dakota State and Justin Fields from Ohio State. Those to me are the next quarterbacks in line, and I would have Mac Jones 5th. Now, in terms of who I would take, well, I have Trey Lance one spot ahead of Justin, but they're going to be, afforded the luxury I don't have, which is to spend a ton of time with these two kids to see, who they're most comfortable with. I don't know that there's a wrong decision between those two because the upside is so tremendous. And if I'm Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, I want to take my offense from where it is and take it to new heights. And in order to do that, I've got to get somebody that can expand what we do. To me, that would be one of the two options between those two guys. But everything we hear is everything points towards Mac Jones, and that's how I do mock drafts, and that's what you hear around the league is the expectation is that will be Mac Jones with the third pick. Which I'll throw it back to you guys because. Dan, I know you've heard this a million times. How many times have you heard the cliche of it's about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's? Well, this is a decision, if they take Mac Jones, that is the exact opposite. This is all about their offense and their system versus the talent of the player you're going to select.
Isn't that
crazy.
what they say you shouldn't do, though? Aren't you supposed to take the best available player and all that? Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would do, and that's how I was brought up with the Ravens' way of doing business. But you look at a team like Greg's team. You look at what happened in New England. They just draft players that fit them, and if they take a guy in the second round that the rest of the league thinks is a sixth-round pick, they don't care because they feel like he fits what we do and he's going to be able to do what we ask him to do. So it's a little bit of that thought process. I don't agree with it. To me, I just want to get the most talented people, and we're going to work around what they do and not be quite as married to everything that I've traditionally done. But that's how they operate.
It's partly why I don't totally want to believe it. I don't want to kill the 49ers for this pick or think about it until I see it. We still have another Justin Fields pro day. Trey Lance seems like
I think they'll do one with Trey Lance, too.
Right. I think he would kind of be perfect in that system, especially for a situation where maybe you play Jimmy Garoppolo for a year or see how that goes, and you have Trey Lance. You have 4 quarterbacks in your top 8. I mean, and Mac Jones is nowhere near that. Does that mean in at least the years you're doing this has to be the best quarterback class you've ever seen? I can't imagine you've ever had 4 quarterbacks in your top 8. It's not like you think Trey Lance and Justin Fields are interesting. You think you think they're 2 of the top 8 players in this draft.
Yeah, I think they're really talented. I think all 4 of these guys at the top are tremendously talented. Now, it's a little bit of a different year, Greg, in that you look at some of the other positions. Like, we don't have, the edge rushers that you would see, typically eat up spots in the top 10. We don't have that this year. We've got some good corners and some good tackles, but in my opinion, the tackle group is not what it was last year with that group. So those are the positions that usually, secure spots in the top 10, and without those this year, to me, you look at it, you see a bunch of quarterbacks, you see a bunch of wide receivers. That's just kind of what this draft has given us. But yeah, I think these 4 quarterbacks in pretty much any draft year would be highly coveted because the ceiling is so high because these guys are so athletic and just big-time arm talent. So, to me, Mac is behind those guys, but if 49ers don't care what I think, they don't care what the other 31 teams think. They're just trying to find the guy that best fits them, and everything you hear seems to be pointing towards Mac.
So moving off the quarterbacks for a moment here. So you have right now Kyle Pitts, the Florida tight end, going at number 5. And it seems like the way you wrote it up on NFL.com, if the Bengals don't take him at 5, the Dolphins makes a lot of sense at 6. And then you do that research, and I'll just name them right now. These are the first-round tight ends in the last 10, 11 years. T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Eric Ebron, Tyler Eifert, Jermaine Gresham, who was taken 21 picks ahead of Gronk in 2010. The one thing they all have in common is none of those guys are stars. And I guess my question to you, DJ, with Pitts, a hot draft prospect and a unicorn and all that, is, like, how come there's no can't-miss tight ends, or there hasn't been in a long time?
Well, I would answer that a couple ways. First of all, if you're uncomfortable looking at that list of tight ends, fine. Just put WR next to his name and draft Kyle Pitts as a wide receiver. You play him at wide receiver, you'd be happy with him at wide receiver as a top 15 type player. Second point I would make is I have a higher grade on him than all those tight ends that you mentioned. So to me, and it's not even close with where he is in terms of the talent that he has. And the third point that I would make, and Sessler, I know you can probably back me up on this, and I know life has taken a terrible turn for this person, but if you go back and somebody wasn't popping wheelies in a strip mall parking lot as a tight end, we wouldn't be talking about that type of impact of taking a tight end in the top 10, because this kid is, to me, he's a better receiver and route runner than Kellen Winslow. Kellen Winslow maybe a little bit better blocker, but he would have had a phenomenal career until everything went way off course.
There's like a lot of small cornerbacks, wide receivers rather, in this class too. I'm sort of struck by how maybe the same physical requirements aren't the same at the position. We know Devonta Smith, but even Jamar Chase is a guy who is talked about as sort of a can't miss. I don't know about generational, but kind of the guy in this class, and yet he's not a guy necessarily that you think is big and tall. He's definitely strong, or is definitely going to run like a fast 40. And really, this entire class, it seems like a lot like, how is that position, and especially the top, how do you separate these guys when maybe they're not as physically dominant as some top receivers in the past?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, and normally when you have guys go in the top 10, you're talking about some height, weight, speed guys, big time, check all those boxes in prototype size. When you think of the Andre Johnsons, the Larry Fitzgeralds, the Calvin Johnsons, those type of players. And this year we have a bunch of really good receivers, but we don't have many of the big guys. I mean, even last year, you go back, outside the first round, you saw Michael Pittman, we saw Claypool, you had T. Higgins, like we had Mims. There was a bunch of those bigger power forward type receivers. This year it's more about speed and quickness. And Jamar Chase is unique to me because even though he's a 6-footer, 200-pound guy, he plays big. Like, he goes up and gets the football, plays above the rim, and then you get the route running and the run after catch stuff that comes along with it. So while that's not traditionally what we see go in the top 10, to me, he's a little bit of an outlier in that regard, and he's going to come off the board real quick. And then after him, you get kind of the debate between the Alabama guys with Waddle and Smith. Smith, much is made about the frame, but to me, when you look at the way the game's played right now at the NFL level, with the lack of contact in the middle of the field, it's not as big of an issue. And people say, oh, how's he going to get off press? He's not a big, strong guy. Well, you can't really get your hands on him either because he's so quick. He's a real slithery type athlete. So there's not a lot of surface area to press. So I think he'll be fine. And then Waddle is somebody that's going to get over the top, and he's the fastest guy in college football. So when you look at all the GPS numbers that the teams have, in terms of wide receivers, I should say, his GPS numbers were at the top of the list.
All right, you can watch DJ and the entire 2021 NFL Draft on NFL Network starting Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it hurts, but you made the show better, DJ. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate it. It's always great to be with you guys. And, Greg, don't forget, it also comes with a coupon for Express with that jacket. So get your wife something nice.
Good to know.
I will. Thanks, DJ.
Get your wife something nice. Outrageous. All right, coming up next, we've been going through every division week by week. Now it is the NFC South's turn, featuring, yes, those defending Super Bowl champions, up next on the broadcast.
Sam Darnold, the Jets starting quarterback for the last several years, is now headed to the Carolina Panthers.
Whatever he did in New York really doesn't matter because he's going to a place now where they understand him and they understand what to do with him, else they wouldn't have made this trade.
38 years old, Arthur Smith, the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Arthur's reputation, humble, hardworking, players love him.
I'm so excited to have the opportunity to be the coach here.
Well, you knew it was going to happen. It is now official. Drew Brees, 42 years old, has announced his retirement.
Our dad is finally going to retire so we can spend more time with us. Yay!
The Bucs have a lot of work to do, but they're confident they're going to be able to retain most of these guys.
Didn't think it was going to be possible, but one by one, slowly but surely, this whole team is coming back.
Yeah, they are definitely keeping the band together.
All right, the NFC South, very interesting division. The Bucs and Saints feel like the two heavy favorites, but you never know year to year in our league. Let's start with the Panthers, and we hit them at the top of the show. But quickly here, I want to bring something up, Greg, because I know you are a big Teddy Bridgewater guy, and you're hurting a little bit because it looks like he is not going to be the guy anymore in Carolina. But, you know, one of the reasons maybe he didn't succeed is he didn't have Christian McCaffrey for basically the entire season. So Sam Darnold, who never got any help in New York, now has arguably the best running back in football with him in 2021.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because to me that is the X factor. That was their big addition on offense this offseason because they lost Curtis Samuel. You know, they signed Dan Arnold. They bring in Darnold. It's like otherwise they've got some big-time questions on their offensive line. It's going to be up to your boy Matt Rule, Mark, to cook up some offense with this group, which maybe is a little thinner than it was a year ago. But if he can use McCaffrey to his fullest, they'll be fine.
Well, also, I think they have Joe Brady, who is probably going to be a head coach in a couple of years. And it's no excuse territory for Sam Darnold. I mean, every excuse was there for him in New York, and he is surrounded by a great group of receivers, one of the best backs in football, and a whole bunch else. And Dan Arnold, a tight end who I like. So I think this offense is ready to cook.
I mean, Joe Brady, that was his first year. He came over from LSU. It's an important year for him, too. I mean, their offense didn't cook as much as they would have liked to. You could put a lot of that on Teddy Bridgewater and some of those mistakes he made. But you're going to want to see some progress all around from that offense in year 2. Let's move on to the Saints. And Greg, I'll tee you up on this one. Do you think there are any other areas of this roster that exist as a question mark other than quarterback? Obviously, we know with quarterback, we'll figure out where that goes. Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, maybe a new quarterback. Is there another part of this roster that worries you at all?
Well, I have no concerns about quarterback. Are you kidding me? Jameis Winston with LASIK surgery. He told you he was going to be the CEO quarterback. I believe it this year. I think you got to get Jameis, please, or Taysom Hill a few more options. It's the same issue I think you had in that Drew Brees could paper over when he was at his best. When it's all Michael Thomas. When he wasn't there, it's all Alvin Kamara. But how about these guys, Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, like finding some depth at the receiver positions or tight end, like to be as dynamic as their offense used to be. Like they need a little more juice out of this draft because I don't think the defense is quite what it was after losing some guys due to the salary cap.
How about the Bucs, Mark? You have the Bucs team, the defending Super Bowl champions. They do a thing where they bring back everybody. Why don't more teams do this? Run it back and I mean, you had it against a tighter salary cap than other teams have had in past, and they've managed to do it. Maybe if this works, it will become a blueprint for all champions.
Well, we've come a long way from Bruce Arians sort of apathetically hanging out in the 3-man booth with Greg Gumbel and Trent Green. I think he's in a much happier place right now. And we've come a long way from Tom Brady about a year ago getting taken out by authorities for working out at a park. We didn't know what would happen with this team. It seemed somewhat combustible. But instead, we're on the fringe of sort of a mini dynasty. And we've got Tom Brady now hanging out with Kylo Ren at Disneyland. They just seem in a very good place mentally. They're bringing everyone back, as you mentioned. Why are they not the odds-on favorite to win this? I don't view the Saints as a heavy hitter at this point. They've had to shave off a bunch of players. They still have cap issues. The Bucs, to me, were just getting started when they won that Super Bowl. I have no problem saying they could win 13 games this season.
Spoiler alert, they are the favorites. We're going to do a little win totals, but I think the Bucs are not only the favorites for that division, they're the favorites for the NFC. It is funny how much we trust that Tom Brady's a superhero now that he's coming off surgery. And he's,
doesn't matter.
About to turn 45, and it's like, doesn't matter. Who needs surgery?
At this point, and I've been very vocal, as podcast listeners know, about tracking any gradual decline with Tom Brady. Now it's been proven that if you just surround him with the right talent, he's just going to keep motoring along. It has, his body will continue to hold up. And Mark, it does remind me also with Bruce Arians, your theory once upon a time that he just wasn't that into it as a head coach anymore. I guess that's out the window as well.
That was with Jameis Winston at quarterback, throwing 30 interceptions and 7 pick sixes. Last year, a little easier to get on board with the quarterback scenario.
I feel like Mark sometimes projects when it comes to Bruce Arians. Sometimes I feel when it's the three of us, Dan. Are you like the Bruce Arians who's just kind of sick of being there with Trent Green and Gumbel? Am I Trent Green in this scenario?
No, I feel lucky every moment that I'm with you boys talking into a microphone. Finally, Mark, you have the Falcons. They're kind of under the radar here. They're a very interesting team with the draft coming up where they go in the first round because they can go in a lot of different directions. Do you think Arthur Smith is a head coach who can make Matt Ryan an MVP again, or is that kind of out the door now with Father Time and Julio Jones being older as well?
Out the door for a 5-year run of that, but I think Arthur Smith has to be intrigued by Matt Ryan versus an unknown at quarterback. I mean, it says that they've finally come into agreement as a team with what they want to do at number 4. Could that be Kyle Pitts? Could that be trading down? This is a club that is about $5 million under the cap with only 53 players signed. If they pick at number 4, they basically have no cap room to sign their entire class. I mean, they're really in a cap crunch right now, and I know that's typically Greg's territory, so I'll hand it off to Greg, but there aren't that many other teams in that situation right now. It's a little under the radar.
I mean, they're under the radar. When was the last time they were mentioned on NFL Network? It's here's Arthur Smith is their coach. We mentioned that. Dean Pease, he's their defensive coordinator. Remember him? That's fun. Get him back. Terry Fontenot's their GM. They're the most fascinating team in the draft, though, because I think they could take a quarterback to replace Matt Ryan, just like Thomas Dimitroff took Matt Ryan to start his era back in the middle of the last decade. I think this is the spot to do it for Atlanta.
And viewers should know that Greg's not speaking out of turn here. He literally watches every second of NFL Network programming, so he knows how much the Falcons come up on this particular channel.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to watch it. Come on. Mark's been pretty into it this offseason. He's
not like you, Greg. Greg, you're like my mentor in terms of network watching habits.
Mark's all over the map this offseason. A lot of fun. All right, good stuff, NFC South. It should be fun to see how it all plays out. Up next, yes, Aaron Rodgers has taken his shot at Jeopardy host. He's 1 week through his 2-week engagement on that program. We take our shot at Jeopardy, ATN style, up next.
Over to our two-day champion on the end. Scott, did you come up with the correct response? Who wanted to kick that field goal? That is a great question. Should be correct, but unfortunately for this game today, that's incorrect, and you're going to lose 0. Thank you for that.
Oh, Scott, why are you the way you are? Aaron Rodgers comported himself very well in his first week as host of Jeopardy. Now it's my turn, the old Zeuser, the new old Blue Eyes, they call me. That's true. And I will host ATN Jeopardy. And I have 3 very special contestants joining us today. First, Greg Rosenthal, a man with multiple podcasts and a really manicured beard. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thank you, and thanks for the free podcast plug. It's rare of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Up next, Mark Sessler, a man that believes that mammals aren't from Earth, and he doesn't need a tie. Welcome to ATN Jeopardy.
Thanks for having me. Don't believe in ties, sticking to that philosophy.
Very nice. And finally, our producer, Erica Tamposi, no stranger to game shows, really, let's say had an embarrassment on the weakest link and looking for a little redemption here.
Yeah, this is my comeback story.
All right. Well, best of luck to you and all the contestants. Let's get to it. Let's check out the categories as we begin ATN Jeopardy. Today's categories: flying coach, playing favorites, backup plan, they did what, now or never, and making the leap. Okay, you should know the rules by now. You are Americans after all. So let's get to it. Jeopardy. Get us going, Greg Rosenthal. You control the board.
Ooh, let's go backup plan for 800, Dan.
All right. The answer is, this veteran QB has the best chance to take a starting job away from his team's incumbent signal caller in 2021. Greg.
Taylor Heineke of the Washington football team. Who is Taylor Heineke? Oh, this is bad.
All right, that is incorrect. Mark Sessler.
I will go, who is Marcus Mariota?
Interesting. Can I have a little more background on that? We need more detail.
I think that the Raiders were intrigued by him. Gruden always has man crushes on other quarterbacks than his starting quarterback. And we're going to get a little bit of a Carr fade at some point in the year, and Mariota will step right in.
That is the correct answer. Mark Sessler nails it. Derek Carr, we all know what's going on here in Vegas. He's got that itch, John Gruden, the 4-year itch. He's got to get a new quarterback in there. And they think about that game, that Week 15 game or Week 16 game against the Dolphins all the time in that building. I know it. Mark, you control the board.
All right, let's go flying coach for 1,000.
All right. The answer is, this first-year head coach has the best chance of taking his team to the playoffs in 2021.
I'm going to go, who is Robert Saleh?
All right.
Don't even call on him.
Those are basic rules of the game, Mark Sessler. Erica, I saw you buzz in first.
Oh.
Well, I was going to say, who is Robert Saleh? The Jets hype is real, Dan.
That is absolutely correct. And Mark, even though you don't get credit for the question or the answer, why do you think it is Saleh?
Well, I was just hoping to get Erica into the game, and so I knew your leanings and thought that that would be an easy way to grease the skids to get Ricky Hollywood on the board.
You better get negative points for that. I mean, that was a big mess up.
Quiet, Greg.
All right, we're flying now. Ricky, you control the board.
Let's do flying favorites for 600.
All right, you mean, well, you picked two categories at once, flying coach or playing favorites.
I mean,
this
that's
is how we
gotta
got
be
into
worth
trouble with the
negative
weakest
points.
link.
This has never happened
Playing
before.
favorites.
Yeah, this is sad.
All right, playing favorites. This one-time AFC also ran will open the 2021 season as a division favorite and buzzy Super Bowl pick. Mark.
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. Who are the Cleveland Browns?
That is incorrect.
I knew
Ricky.
it would be.
Who are the Buffalo Bills? They're going to do it this time.
That is the correct answer. Mark, you have to understand the Bills. They're ready. You love the Bills too, Mark, so I know you're upset about this because you thought it should be the Browns. But the Bills look like they're right there right now.
Well, I think they already are buzzy, but I will accept the judge's answer.
All right, Erica, you remain in control of the board. Wow, we're flying now.
Making the leap for 1,000.
All right, this is a video clue.
Hello. All right. What second-year playmaker will be knocking on the door of the Superstar Club after a brilliant sophomore season?
Colleen is going to be an incredible old lady one day. Greg.
Who is Justin Herbert?
That's incorrect. He's already knocking. Ricky.
It's clearly CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he was on pace with Dak Prescott in the beginning of the season for crazy numbers. Next year, it's going to be big.
That is the correct answer. Erica is out of control right now. Listen, Greg, it's very important to understand the nuance within the question. Justin Herbert might already be in the Superstar Club. At the very least, he's knocking on the door.
Your Superstar Club, I know it well because we've done it 1,000 times. It's got like 4 quarterbacks in it. There's no way, Herbert, you've put it in there yet. That was absolutely the right answer. Just like Brandon Staley would have been a better answer than the Jets. The Jets won 2 games last year for the first-time head coach.
Find him blue eyes.
I hope she got negative points for not even choosing in a category that existed, though. I mean, that's.
This is a ponderous guest. Can we? There's endless complaints.
It's stunning that Greg would be really annoying in this game. Or is that all our categories?
You're the host.
Yes,
Come
it
on,
is. I'm
Rogers.
being told.
Let's go, Trebek.
All right. All right, let's move to Final Jeopardy.
Who made
Here's
it?
the question. History's great monsters. Greg, unfortunately, you finished with $0. So we're going to have to tell you have to sit out Final Jeopardy. You need to have some money to participate in Final Jeopardy. So we'll come down to Mark and Ricky. Here we go. This Hall of Fame pass rusher's known transgressions include disgracing the single-season sack record and discarding the basic tenets of April Fool's Day. Good luck.
He's the monster.
All right, time's up. All right, Greg, I'm sorry. Again, sorry that you finished with 0, but maybe you'll get another shot, maybe on the weakest link. I am not history's known monster. Mark, we'll start with you. You came into Final Jeopardy with $800. What was your answer?
Who is Michael Strahan for all my money?
All right, very good. So you wager 800. That finishes with 1,600. Good job by you. Yes, Michael Strahan. I mean, how dare he? He took the sack record, and, Brett Favre had something to do with that as well. But the April Fool's Day prank with the gap disappearing, it doesn't count if you do the April Fool's prank before April Fool's. You're on my radar, friend. Ricky, you look confident. You're already in the lead. You have $2,600 entering Final Jeopardy. Your answer is?
Who is Michael Strahan for $5 billion?
All right. Well, you can only wager $2,600, but that gives you $5,200 and the highest score. And yes, Erica Tamposi, it is redemption for Ricky Hollywood after the disgrace of the weakest link. Anything you have to say, Erica?
Well, thank you for that backhanded compliment, Dan. I appreciate it. It feels really good to be a winner today, and I'm flying into the weekend. You guys, this is great, and it's great. I'd like to thank my competition for being mediocre today.
I'd like to thank the host for totally skipping that now or never category. I still got a hot answer for that one.
Greg, you need to stop talking at some point. Thank you, everybody, for watching Final Jeopardy. We'll see you next time. And coming up next on the broadcast, yes, wins and losses. You're going to need a bunch of them to get to the playoffs. We break down some projections ahead of the 2021 season. Welcome back to the broadcast. All right, PFF put out their annual total win projections. Remember, it's a 17-game season, so keep that in mind. The Chiefs pace everybody with 12, despite being spanked in the Super Bowl by the Bucs, who are right behind them at 11.5. Very interesting. Why don't we go through this a little bit, boys, and talk about which jumped out to us, some totals that maybe made sense or didn't make sense. Greg, you go first.
The Colts off that board, it doesn't make sense to me. 10 is a big number. I mean, I like the Colts last year, but Carson Wentz is their quarterback. They don't have a left tackle. Anthony Costanzo retired. To me, that's a big downgrade from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz. And so that double-digit win number, I know the AFC South isn't great, but that's a little aggressive for me.
It's putting a lot of faith in Wentz bouncing back. I'm with you on that. Mark, how about you?
I look at the Ravens. I mean, they have them above the rest of the field in the AFC North with 11 wins. I don't have a big problem with that, except that they don't have an edge rusher right now. Matt Judon gone, Yannick Ngakoue gone. The remaining edge rushers and pass rushers on the team combined for 7 sacks a year ago. The Greg Roman offense, are we going to see the same thing that last year other teams were calling out ahead of time? It just seems to me like this is a team with some bigger questions to ask on both sides of the ball, some work to do. So why are they ticketed above everyone with ease?
That sounds like a Browns fan.
Mark,
a little bit salty, but I understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, I'll look over in the NFC. In the NFC East, the Cowboys are projected as the favorite there, significantly so. And I just thought it jumped out to me that the PFF model is not high in any of these other teams. So you have the Cowboys, who they see as like a 9-8, 10-7 type team. That still sounds weird. And everybody else is kind of still floundering. So if you're looking for a return to greatness for the NFC East division, it is not going to happen this year, at least according to the people at PFF. How about you, Greg? Give us another one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers 8.5. This is the one that stuck out the most to me. You're telling me Mike Tomlin, who's never been below 500 in his NFL career, is suddenly going to be below 500. This team still won 12 games a year ago. I know people like Mark want to bury them, but people are acting like 12 games like they're the worst team in the league. Hasn't happened one time, like I said, in the Tomlin era. I'm going them over 8.5. Are we allowed to say the word over on NFL Network? I don't know.
Hey,
well,
listen, you just said it. How about you, Mark? Give me another one.
I'll give you a quick one. Chargers at 9. I'd like to go over on this. I think Brandon Staley will be coach of the year. You know I like to pick these early. You got Justin Herbert at quarterback, Derwin James back, Joey Bosa. I think this team is going to compete for the division and snag a wild card with ease. I really do.
And I'll just tag it with the Cardinals. They're set at 8 right now. If that's what happens to the Cardinals, if they're an 8-9 team, Cliff Kingsbury's out the door. That would be 3 years without getting to the playoffs with Kyler Murray. All right. Good chat, guys. Before we say goodbye, it is time to share some final thoughts by way of weekend vibes. Juju, look at that. He's back in Pittsburgh. Coming up next. The NFL Draft is coming, and no one covers it like NFL Network. Mark your calendars for Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's when we'll get the first round rolling with the Jags at number 1. Wonder where they're going with that. The NFL Draft live on NFL Network Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, boys, we say goodbye as we always do. Some weekend vibes. Get us going, Greg.
I'm vibing in the Rocky Mountains, which is where I hope Teddy Bridgewater goes this year. I love this Denver Broncos team, but they haven't brought any quarterback competition for Drew Lock. They said they were going to do it last year. It was Jeff Driscoll. They got Brett Rippon right now. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's, the best quarterback in the league, but he's an adult in the room. He's better than Drew Lock. All you need is average quarterback play. I think this team goes to the playoffs if they get Teddy on the cheap. Let's do it.
More like Greggy bridge too far when talking about that particular player. Mark, how about you? Gotcha!
There are literally people on Twitter, if you go check our feeds, guys, asking Greg to stop talking about Teddy Bridgewater to the Broncos. So he's not giving people what they want. Here's my thing. I'm going to offer you a sandwich prop. I've had some wild ones of late. Here it is. We've been talking about Sam Darnold all show. Here it is. Sam Darnold will not be the Week 1 starter for the Panthers. He won't even be on the team in Week 1. Something dramatic is about to come. Do you take me on this sandwich prop?
Sure.
I mean, I don't see any scenario. Okay. That's insane, Mark. But thank you for the sandwich.
No, it's not.
Finally, farewell to the Monday Night Football late game. The redheaded stepchild of the schedule in the NFL. It is moving to Saturday, way in Week 18 when ESPN gets a whole different type of setup. So long. We'll miss you very much. Greg, even as a football fanatic as you are, that you struggled with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was a long weekend to get to it. Sometimes it'd be fun. It was always the Chargers.
All right. Thank you for watching. We'll be here next week. Have a great weekend.